This meeting is being recorded.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'll just give other attendees a minute or so to join us before we get started on the content.
Hi everyone.
Hey. Oh, nice to see lots of you joining us. Hello.
Oh, yay. Hi, Rachel.
Oh. All right, a good number here. So let's get started. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this afternoon, this morning, depending on where you are in the world or on demand if you're watching our recording. Today we will be talking about successfully combating the new year job hopping. I'll introduce myself and the panel in a moment, and please do feel free to introduce yourselves too in the chat, perhaps also sharing what organisation you're from, why you chose to be here for this conversation today. We'll be live for about 30 minutes with a panel discussion and then with questions at the end. So if there are questions you would like to ask us, please do use the Q&A box in your Zoom window and I will get to those towards the end of the session. So my name is Stacey. I'm a financial coach and head of employee wellbeing here at Claro. Claro delivers human coaching and webinars alongside our digital financial wellbeing platform that has access to various budgeting tools, financial calculators, on-demand courses and content to support you and your teams with their financial wellbeing. Shelley, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about you and Robert Half?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm Shelley Crane, the director at Robert Half Talent Solutions. I'm really excited to be part of this webinar today. I think it definitely comes at a good time with the ongoing economic pressures that are keeping us awake at night. So I've been providing talent and advisory solutions for nearly 20 years. I'm proud to be working for Robert Half, who have an unrivaled depth of knowledge operating in the UK now for 50 years. So we've partnered with businesses small to large across multiple industries, multiple economic situations. We've seen businesses go through tremendous growth and obviously navigating deep recessions. So keen to share some insights with you all today.
Amazing. I'm so pleased that we could have you here today. Great. And likewise, Melis and Wellbees, do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I'm the founder of Wellbees, and Wellbees is a holistic well-being platform. And we are basically headquartered in the US, but we also operate in countries like the UK. We have offices in Turkey, the UAE. You might ask me why I'm mentioning those names, because these are all very high inflationary countries. And I think today that really will bring some resonance into what we're going to talk about today. Without further ado, the ball is back on you, Stacey. So let's see.
Amazing. Feel very excited to ask you both lots of questions. Before we get into that, to help us set the tone and focus of the discussion, I've got a quick poll to share with all of you attendees. So hopefully that will be popping up on your screen now. And the question is, what's your top people concern at the moment? It's a multiple choice question, so you can pick up to 3 of these responses. So I have listed financial well-being of employees, overall well-being of employees, attracting talent, retaining talent, flexible remote or hybrid working, pressure on salaries, career development opportunities, benefit strategy, or something else. So up to 3 of those answers, please. Shelley, Melis, can I check with you that people can see the results as they're coming in?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see the results actually.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
It's very balanced. It's very interesting to see that.
Mine's not showing actually for some reason. I can't see the results. I'm the same as Rachel.
Okay.
It did flash up and it's now I've crossed it and it's gone.
Okay. Right, I think, let me see if I can press this button and it works. I've got over 80% participation, so let's end that poll now. Share results. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, great. So we have got 50% of you said overall well-being of employees. So big smile from Melis for that result. Pressure on salaries, and well, Shelley's the perfect expert to be commenting on that. So it's almost like we set it up.
Right.
And 46% on financial well-being, which is in my court. So I believe those are the top three, but also big results for retaining and attracting talent, which is one of the areas we wanted to focus on today, and flexible remote hybrid working. And then we've got career development opportunities and benefits strategies. Awesome. That's really interesting. Thank you for those results, and we will bear those in mind as we are going through the conversation today. So let's get started then. If I can begin with you, Shelley, with the macro view of the recruitment market in 2023. So please, can you start off with sharing perhaps the main findings for Robert Half Salary Guide for this year?
Yeah, of course. So just to kind of highlight the salary guide, it's actually compiled from multiple streams of data. So it's giving insight into salaries and salary projections, but also the non-monetary benefits such as flexible working and well-being. So it's considering the wider national trends and the influence that that's having on packages that's offered to employees at the moment. In terms of the main findings, I think one of the key takeaways from the 2023 guide is the pressure that inflation has put on businesses to increase salaries. So only 1 in 5 businesses are planning to increase salaries in line with inflation at the moment, whilst 39% are giving a flat rate percentage increase. So many business leaders now are really looking at the retention strategies and how they can support through the cost of living crisis, rather than just increase salary. So as a highlight on the average increase in professional services, it's 5.4% at the moment, which is obviously putting a big squeeze on employee finances compared to inflation. So some of the creative measures that we're seeing is now including the mental well-being support, financial training, subsidised meals. We're even seeing income streaming, which is where employees are able to draw down on salaries early, which is something that's quite new. And we've also noticed an increase in requests for benefits package at interview stage as well from candidates, that they want to understand this before accepting an interview. And another big takeaway, I suppose, from the salary guide is that attracting talent in a tight market still remains a challenge. So a lack of competitive pay, bad work-life balance and flexibility are really holding businesses back right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? That I guess, like, traditionally, engagement or uptake of benefits outside of your salary has been a real challenge for HR. How do we get more of our employees making the most of the benefits we're offering them? So it's really interesting to see that the employees are being proactive and asking about that as part of their decision-making process for even accepting a job in the first place.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really interesting. Thank you. And in terms of like the movement of in the recruitment market, are people going like committing to changing roles and changing organizations? Because one of the most interesting pieces from the salary guide that I read about was counter offers, and actually people may be looking for work, jobs elsewhere, but counter offers from the existing organization is kind of encouraging them to stay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the salary guide obviously is giving the findings behind that, which is really helpful. But I think one of the big examples that we've got is the financial counter offers are not always as successful as expected. So the tactic to entice employees to stay is actually, it's not the result that they probably want towards the end. Our actual data reveals that 1/3 of all counter offers result in employees leaving in the short term. So meaning intentions to change jobs is, it's not just about throwing money at the problem, it's looking at the overall package and actually what makes the candidate or employee happy.
That's very interesting. Can I just interject there for a second? So Shelley, we actually, from our data, we know that like we've looked how it comes about that an employee leaves your company, and in the last 30 days of an employee, you see a 20% drop in mood and sleep. So what you just told us about like only 25% of the leavers staying after the counter offers actually tells me maybe like once those 30 days are over and like they tell you that they're going to resign, there's really no turning back after that point of like 30 days of like losing all that sleep, losing all of that mood over the past 30 days. So like there's maybe no reversing that. So very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, with the cost of living as well, where that's increasing, you've got the financial pressure, but then happiness and well-being of the employee is just as important. So it's getting the balance that's right, and that's where the counter offers are becoming counterproductive on that.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. So the pressure on salaries, like being the top results on our poll earlier, perhaps some of those other answers we had in that poll are the longer term, more sustainable solutions to addressing that pressure on salary, rather than just an increase or a counter offer. It's actually having a solid benefit strategy in place, providing those career development opportunities, having like a very clear hybrid or flexible working policy, and obviously something in place for supporting their well-being too.
Yeah, definitely. And that we've got a candidate survey that reveals that 47% of those surveyed are actively looking for a new job. So that's still, if you think of the pressure that we're under from the economy, that there's still the competition in the talent market is still definitely there, and candidates have got the confidence in that as well.
Where can people access the reports? Because they're really interesting statistics that you're sharing that organizations could perhaps use to benchmark themselves against, or as a prompt for conversations in their workplace. How do they hold that?
So just on the Robert Half website, to be honest with you, my colleague Sveten can put the link in the group chat so you can see that now, and my LinkedIn profile can go on there as well. So if anyone's got any questions and wants us to kind of consult with you and give a bit more of a tailored approach to it and walk you through the guide, obviously more than happy to do that.
Amazing. And I can see that Sveten has put it in the chat now, so thank you.
Yeah,
my HR team is going after that as well, I think. Cool.
It's really useful because it's obviously the data is real in there, and it will definitely give some highlights to what can be done in terms of retaining staff.
Yeah, Claro has something called our impact calculator on our website. Perhaps if one of my colleagues is on the chat, actually, they can share the link. I didn't think I was going to talk about this, but it has, you can put in like what sector you're in, the average age of your employees, and the average salary of your workforce, and then that uses various credible financial wellbeing sources in the UK to estimate how many of your employees might have a problem with debt, or how many have an emergency fund, how many are contributing to their pension, how many might be considering leaving during the cost of living. So it's these sorts of external benchmarking reports can be a really useful start to a conversation in your organization about how are we doing, what else, and introducing topics to and conversations to have with employees that are perhaps on very personal issues and challenges that they might not be comfortable talking about. So it provides a really nice safe start to a conversation about some sensitive topics.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Melis, over to you then. So at Wellbees, what impacts have you seen on recruitment and retention of talent through offering an effective wellbeing platform?
So it's as if like we made a pact with Shelley and like talked about how she's going to get into the subject, because it fits perfectly about what I'm going to say now. So as I just mentioned in the beginning, we work in high inflation geographies. So like I'm talking about, for example, here, Turkey, where there's the official rate of inflation at 40 to 50%, and where the real inflation rate actually is at 140%. Or like look at the UAE, for example, like the official rate is at 5%, but when you look at like several different reports out there, you see that the inflation rate tends to be anywhere between 20 to 22%. So there is really a gap between the formal numbers and the informal numbers. Why am I giving this example? Because when you like, there are countries who've been through it and who've been going through it for the past like 2 or 3 years now. And our experience in those geographies have shown us a couple of different things. So one, these companies are finding it so difficult, Shelley, to report back to, for example, headquarters and tell them why they're trying to give people salary rises above the official inflation rates, right? How do you explain it to that? How do you explain that to headquarters? And since in these countries, the inflation is so high, we even have HR directors who are looking at their salaries compensation quarterly. I mean, just think about the workload that creates and the stress, right? But like last year, something changed, like they realized they can't keep up with the inflation. I mean, whenever they issued a new salary, they knew it's not going to be enough maybe a week after this. So that's when like all of the clients that were working in these regions started offering more and more benefits, like, Claro or Wellbeing or any, like, I would say anything else under the umbrella of total rewards, right? Like that would help people with their daily needs, daily problems, whatever they're looking to solve. So those companies, for example, we work with, like, I looked at this prior coming to this call, like we work with 49 companies in those countries that I just mentioned, and they are seeing, like, I would say, like they're reaching their targets, financial targets, by 2x, and they're seeing up to 52% lower turnover in their companies. And these numbers are just over the roof. Why? Because, as I mentioned, you can't raise the salaries every quarter. It's just not, even that sometimes is not going to be enough. But there again, like you need to find something that is going to make an impact on people, right? So usage is going to be key. Like, what are you going to implement at the workplace that's going to impact people? Because when you look at the past 2 years, we've been throwing money at people, right? Like benefits platforms here, like EAP there, like, like there's like so much HR tech lying around. And when you look at Josh Bersin's latest report, it starts with a glaring, paragraph saying that this is the year of consolidation. Yes, we're all going to look through our platforms, through our benefits, to make sure that we keep whatever is necessary, and whatever is not necessary or whatever is not used, we're going to cut, because like these things now do really matter. And when it comes to well-being, when is it used? It's used when people need it, to be honest with you. So like at Wellbeing, for example, we try to make sure that we offer a multi-layered approach, meaning like we don't just offer one type of solution, but different types of functions are layered within the same solution, so that every different persona in the organization can find something from herself, himself, or themselves in the platform. So maybe I can start with that and see if that prompts any questions, Shelley or Stacey.
Yeah, that's, I guess for me, I'm thinking about, I totally can see how this would be a year of consolidation. And perhaps if there are HR people watching today and they're thinking about consolidating or like reviewing their benefit strategy, what sort of like data or insights would you suggest that they look at when they're deciding, you know, what benefits should I keep or what new ones should I get?
First of all, I think I have a great example. Here's I'll give an example from a CHRO. So her name is Emma Davies. Please feel free to reach out to her on LinkedIn. Emma, during COVID, here's what she did. So she didn't have any budget for total benefits, right? But she wanted to do something on financial well-being. So she went back to every single employee with her team, of course, not everyone on her, but with her team, they made focus groups, like they had these one-on-ones to ask them how could they possibly, as the HR team, contribute to their team's financial well-being. And here's the answer. And I love this example, right? So almost 80% of the people surveyed, like interviewed, said that they're sending money home after like 1 or 2 days after their salaries are in the bank. And like they found that like during COVID, of course, like they have to take half a day off, go to the bank, and then like put on masks and take the pressure and the risk of going inside that bank and go out and get back to work and then pay a high commission for sending that money home. Here's what they did. It's so simple. They just sat down with all of the banks and just managed to get an agreement with one of them, lowered commission rates, and they got an ATM installed inside the organization, inside the offices, so that people can send or withdraw money easily. And they had a bank teller coming in every month, once for 2 hours, and voila. I mean, it was the best benefit ever. But you know, the point of this example for me is we need to start by asking, right? Like, what do people really need? So maybe with that, I can jump back to you, Stacey. I'm sure you have like a lot of examples like this in your organization.
Yeah, that's where we always, you know, tell organizations to start as well. It's about asking people what they really want and need. But because money is, you know, such a new topic to be talking about, especially your personal finances in the workplace.
So true.
You know, it takes some work from the employer to build that trusted relationship where people feel safe talking about their personal finances in the workplace. So, you know, perhaps you're not going to get the insights in the first questionnaire that you do. It's about showing up consistently, providing, you know, multiple channels and regular touch points, and demonstrating through, you know, openness and transparency with the organization that this is a conversation that you're taking seriously, and you do really want to hear about what personal finance, you know, needs and wants that your employees really have. And, you know, that might be, if you've changed a flexible working policy, for example, your kind of annual transport loan for the commuter train ticket might be defunct for a lot of your employees now, and they might instead be having pressures on, you know, their food shop and their household bills. So is there a discount platform instead that you can access? Or if, you know, more of your workforce are not in front of a laptop every day, perhaps a lunchtime live webinar might make them feel excluded. So a platform where they can access, you know, the recording on demand, or use like a chat function so they can still engage with their employees on that, and build a community around their like financial well-being when they're not at their laptop or in their own time. Then that might be something that's more appropriate. So it's about, you know, providing, like offering that survey and asking those questions, but doing that regularly and consistently so they know that, you know, you're taking it seriously. And then, yeah, really like listening to what they need.
I love this.
With consistency.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that consistency piece, I think, is so important, isn't it? Because initiatives that are rolled out that just aren't consistent, they're the ones that obviously get forgotten. So it's good to hear how that's something that's really important in what you offer.
And Stacey, you pushed a lot of buttons, so we started speaking at the same time. So maybe, yeah, so one stat I can share about what you said earlier about how financial well-being is fairly new. I mean, for the past, I've been in this for the past 10 years, right? Like, and I still, the past year, I've been saying financial well-being is the new mental well-being, because like 10 years ago, mental well-being was something that like hardly anyone was talking about. But only last year, we've seen 57% of employees, more employees taking appointments with psychologists, and half of them are men. Like, we haven't seen that. Historically, we haven't seen those numbers. So like, there's definitely something changing there. But I think on the financial well-being side, like what you said about transparency, like that, like continuous talk around it is so spot on.
That was one of our stats actually in our salary guide that was quite interesting. A third of companies are planning to add stress reduction programs over the next 12 months, which obviously then relates into the financial well-being. And yeah, it's designed to obviously curb that burnout related resignation and consistency with it. Yeah.
Amazing. I could talk to both of you all afternoon. Really conscious of everybody's time. We do have
too.
we have one question. I think it's one for you, Shelley, but Melis and I will chime in as well. So someone has asked, I have a feeling that counteroffers are pretty common. This means the situation when an employee is searching for a new job in order to increase the salary happens often. Could you please share the insights on how the employee should behave if they feel that they deserve the salary raise, but does not feel like it's a good time to have a chat with their employer about it?
I think with regards to salary raises, if it's an issue that is on your mind, the shock of resignation is where counteroffers come in, and nobody likes the surprise. And that is where you see the downhill slope of the kind of after 30 days, it just goes back to normal with a slight increase. I think the one thing I would advise, that I've advised over the last 20 years, is always speak to your manager and give them that opportunity so they actually understand the financial constraints that you're in, and if there is anything that can be done internally. If the business really can't help on that, then at least you've given them the option. So when you do resign, rather than just receive the counter there, you've given them that chance, and it probably shows it's the right thing you're doing to leave.
Maybe I can chime in with my 2 cents here as well. So I think this is the year where line managers are going to make the biggest difference, maybe for the past, like when compared to the past decade or so, because I think this is the year when they're pressed the most, right? Like from bottom up, they're like, like there are like revenue pressures, like let's not have a hybrid working place, or whatever is coming from bottom up, top down, right? So what's happening from bottom up? Like employees want something completely different, right? Like most of the time that's the case. Like bottom up, like their employees want to have more freedom, more flexibility, more pay, right? And managers are playing a huge role of being diplomats in this like space now where they're demanded from a lot. And we looked at our data in the past year, and shockingly, we found there's only 5% mood difference between how a manager feels and how their teams feel. That's so small. Like, in other words, like if a manager is feeling 4 out of 5, their teams are not going to feel more or less 4 out of 5, right? So I think creating that, like strengthening line managers' resilience and how they react to stuff like this, maybe like the one in question, might be one place to start solving this problem.
Yeah,
totally. Guess I would just like, what do I want to add? I think from like an employer's perspective, especially with financial well-being, it's an interesting time to be talking about financial well-being platforms with employers, because on the surface, you would think high inflation, pressure on salaries, cost of living crisis, they need a financial well-being platform. But it's actually a really difficult message to offer an employee when they're disgruntled about salaries, to say, we can't give you a salary increase right now, but we can offer you this, which would give you better money behaviors, discounts on certain retailers, which would be the equivalent of a salary increase. It will feel like you've had one because you're managing your money better. And even though that's true, if you haven't done like, you know, the work before that to really like embed the wellbeing platforms for them to start seeing the benefits of like long-term financial well-being, it's a difficult time to deliver that message to employees. So that's why it's really important to talk about it throughout the year and not just at, you know, salary review time, and look at, you know, what financial milestones are there throughout the year, if there's a change in interest rates, if the business is going through a big strategic change or publishing results, if it's Talk Money Week or there's Debt Awareness Week. Find many opportunities throughout the year to talk about the wellbeing offerings that you've got. So it's an easier message to deliver in the difficult times when you are having difficult conversations.
Definitely. And the thing is as well, your manager will be going through, but what you said, Melis, the same situation and scenarios as yourself as well. So it's just making sure you feel valued and supported in what's right for you, but then also see it from the business's perspective, and that they're going through the ongoing pressure just as much. So I think it's that people first mindset should be holistic in that.
I agree with you, by the way. And I love, maybe like I'll conclude maybe by saying, like, there's this incredible professor out there. His name is Neil Greenberg. He works with King's College. He says, and I always love to quote him, he says, like, resilience does not lie in the individual, but in the bonds between individuals. And I love that. So like when we're all looking at an well-being strategy, creating a financial well-being strategy, it's great to have a look at the individual first, but I'm also like all about asking these questions about how can we include the managers there? How can we include the like C-level professionals in there to make sure that this is a community discussion? It's more about a culture change than it is helping out like individuals. Of course, that's a huge part of it, but let's just remember, you know, like only 7% of people who are setting their like New Year goals on their own can achieve their goals, but 74% of people who set goals together can achieve them. So making this a culture discussion is really key. So that's, I think, we're 3 minutes over.
I know.
Stacey, I know. We could talk about it all day.
I'm testing my facilitation skills here, ladies. But we're 3 minutes over, but we haven't had anyone drop off. So hopefully that means people have found it an interesting conversation. Thank you for sticking with us for the half an hour. And ladies, if you would like to share any contact information in the chat, if or any further resources that you would like to direct people to, and yeah, I think this is a sign that we need to do this again sometime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Really enjoyed it, and obviously here to help anyone that's just looking for that advice as well.
I was just thinking, let's do this monthly. Of course, like if people find it interesting as well. So thank you so much, Stacey, for inviting us, and thank you, Shelley.
Yeah, great, and really enjoyed it. Look forward to the next one.
Speak soon.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.